Yay! Hey, everybody. Happy Monday. Welcome to Ginger Runner Live, episode number 302.
It seems like episode 300 was like 4 years ago.
It was. Yeah. 4 years ago, we celebrated our 300th episode. 4 years later, we're now at 302. So
Perfect.
We're very, very excited.
Time's just ticking by.
Ticking by here. We are excited because tonight's show, we get a good friend back on. Jamil Coury is going to be joining us on tonight's episode to talk to us about what he's been up to in the last few weeks because his business had to shift. As he sort of put it, he had to do a complete pivot from race directing and putting on all these fantastic events, a couple of which Kim and I have participated in, and we got to witness just how good Aravaipa Running is and how good their events are. But with everything that's going on, Jamil and the team have had to shift their focus on creating video content and virtual runs and all sorts of stuff. Jamil's been up to so much in the last few weeks that I can't wait to kind of catch up and see just exactly what he's been up to, from participating in the Quarantine Backyard Ultra, where he ran, I believe, 100 kilometers, something crazy like that, doing loops at work, running home, and also on a treadmill doing all of that, which is crazy. And I believe the Quarantine Backyard Ultra is still happening. It's down to 2 people, which is, we'll probably talk a little bit about that on the show. Also creating videos from doing a 40% incline mile on his treadmill at home, all sorts of stuff. So we're going to talk to Jamil Coury tonight on the show, and we're very excited because he's a fantastic dude, and I know we have lots to catch up on. So sit back, relax. Welcome everyone to Ginger Runner Live, episode 302.
Ginger Runner.
Yay! That was a proper. I realized that I couldn't change it in the 10 seconds before the show. There is no hyphen in Kim's last name. You'd think
her husband would know that.
You'd think that her husband would know that, but the podcast listeners have no idea. So that's what's good. Welcome everyone to Ginger Runner Live, episode number 302. I'm your host Ethan Newberry, and I'm joined by
Kimberly Tajima Newberry.
Now I have to change the graphics again. Your name is going to take up the entire screen.
That's fine.
Kimberly Tashima Newberry. We're excited because tonight's show is going to be fun. Our guest tonight is a good friend of ours. He's a fantastic ultra runner race director, creative, YouTube content creator. Jamil Coury is going to be joining us to talk all about what he's been up to because his entire business has had to pivot and shift during these crazy times. Unfortunately, a lot of his races had to be postponed or canceled altogether, just for obvious reasons. But his business, to survive, has now kind of shifted on creating virtual runs, which we're very familiar with. Video content, they're doing new stuff almost every single day on their channels across social media. They are working hard and providing lots of people with fun entertainment. And Jamil himself has also been working very hard on a variety of things, from the Quarantine Backyard Ultra to running a 40% mile and filming the entire thing, running a marathon on a helipad on the roof of his work, doing tiny little loops and live streaming. I mean, just this guy's done so much in just a couple of weeks. He's making lemonade. That's what this episode should just be called. It's Jamil Coury making lemonade.
Yep.
I'm changing it officially. But we're very excited to introduce Jamil here in just a second. But before we do the couple pieces of business we always like to take care of at the top of the show. Again, Kim, you're here in the chat.
Yeah, I'm here in the chat. I feel like a little rusty today for some reason. Maybe it's the whole pandemic thing. Who knows?
Maybe.
Yes, I'm here. Welcome, everybody. If you're new to the chat room, hello. We do have our guest joining us live here in just a second. So because we do have our guest live, you can ask questions. So if you have questions for Jamil, please pop them into the chat room. Already questions rolling in.
Good. Again, our guest he's one of the best guests we get on the show from time to time. So having him on tonight is going to be great. If you have questions for Jamil, jump in there. We get to ask them in real time. Before we introduce our guests, of course, we have individuals that we like to thank, and that is our Patreon crew. We like to call them our GR crew, the supporters over there on patreon.com/thegingerrunner. They are the reason that we're still around. Like, we're still able to do this as a full-time business. It is because of our Patreon subscribers and supporters. So we have to thank them first and foremost. We've also been doing something new since all of this went down, because Kim and I, in the same sort of spot that Jamil's in, we knew that our business would sort of have to pivot a little bit. We can't we want to make sure that we provide people with entertainment and a good community and a place for people to go. So what we've started to do at the $3 level and above on Patreon every single day is we go live. We call it the Daily Brew. Over a cup of coffee or over a beer in the afternoon, we go live for a certain amount of time, answer questions, tell stories. It's a great way to bring the community together, and it has been awesome. I just posted on Instagram yesterday about creating routine, having just some sort of routine in your day, and the Daily Brew has become mine and Kim's just like favorite part of our routine every single day.
Hey man, it encourages me to wash my face every morning.
I put a shirt on.
And that's all.
And that's pretty much it. But it's been a great sort of means by which we get to bring the community together. So if you'd like to join us for Daily Brew, which is a daily live stream, you can do so at Patreon for $3 and above. It's a fraction of a cup of coffee, but it really does help us do what we do. And two individuals in particular at that top tier, Brian Sands, longtime supporter, incredibly inspiring individual, has lost over 100 pounds in this journey with running, ran his first marathon at the age of 50, his first 50K. He's training for all sorts of adventures once this thing sort of fades away and things sort of get back to semi-normal. Brian's going to be crushing
taking
it.
another stab at Javelina,
Yes.
100K.
Who our guest puts on as his company, Aravaipa Running, puts that one on. So shout out to Brian Sands, of course, and Chris Lee out of Hong Kong. Chris runs an organization called Trailblazer, brick and mortar, but also online, and they kind of showcase the trails in that region. So if you find yourself in that region or you are there and live there and you need some trail running gear or running gear, reach out to Chris at Trailblazer. They do just great stuff. So shout out to those two individuals for helping us do what we do. Without further ado, I would like to introduce our wonderful guest, ultra runner, race director, content creator extraordinaire, Mr. Jamil Coury.
Yay!
Hey guys, thanks for having me. Really excited to be on and chat and catch up.
I am super curious. We'll just start here. Where are you broadcasting from? Because it is crisp and clear. The lighting is great. The signal is strong.
Yeah, I'm here in my studio. So this is part of Aravaipa Running headquarters. I finally have a studio space. I'm really excited. I'm not working out of a conference room anymore that's double duty. It's dedicated for video filming in here. So you can kind of see behind me, I've got a green screen where I film my Mountain Outhouse news show. I've got a couple other sets that we've kind of built. We literally made these just a few weeks ago and started filming a bunch in here, and it's really coming together. I'm excited. So yeah, I do have some really nice lights here to hopefully have a good mood and look nice.
It's like,
and there's also a torso back there.
What is right? Is that a torso?
It's like a mannequin there's like a singlet on there. Yeah, it's kind of weird. I thought maybe I'd move it, but this is what's going on. We're in the middle of stuff. I do a lot of product photography now for our artwork stuff on this bench back here. And yeah, it's like every day we use the space for something different.
It's been really fascinating to follow everything that you guys have been up to in the last year. I mean, you've developed the Aravaipa artworks side of things and the screen printing and like merch, and you've really branched out into new avenues. And that's definitely one thing where I wanted to start, is because obviously, as you've mentioned on other podcasts and other interviews that you've done in the last couple of weeks, you've really had to pivot and focus on other things. So what was the biggest change for you? Because was it the racing side of things? Are you still able to do the artworks and the other thing? Like, what was the biggest shift for you in the career path? Yeah,
I mean, I guess we've been kind of planting these seeds the last couple of years. Thank goodness. I've been doing more media, video stuff for 4 to 5 years, which has been awesome. Fortunate enough to build up an awesome audience of people that enjoy what we produce. And then about a year and a half ago, we started getting more into making our own awards, which we've been doing that since day one of our company. We've been buying Mexican artwork imported from Mexico and Latin America and then kind of assembling it ourselves. But we've taken it to another level, making really cool products. We've got an amazing creative team on board that loves doing that kind of stuff. And then we just recently, in the past couple months, added some ability to print our own T-shirts and hats on demand. So we actually don't have screen printing, but we have direct to garment and dye sublimation. For those of you who are like printing nerds or whatever out there, that may mean something to you. The rest, it may not. But yeah, I think we printed our first race shirts in February, and that was good timing because now we kind of know what to do, and we've just gone off the deep end, so to speak, in all of this stuff, all the above, video production and our own production of in-house things. So
I love just knowing that there is a lot of different paths that you have been able to take and sort of succeed in and stuff. It's always been really inspiring as someone who had so many years focused just on YouTube content creation and sort of realizing YouTube will never pay the bills. YouTube is not like there for the creator as much as it's a great platform. So seeing what you have been doing with Aravaipa with like racing and Garment and awards and medal has just been really cool to see. And so with all that's going on, how quick was that shift? Like how quick was we need to figure something else out? And did you have that plan in place before this all happened as like an emergency backup, or like, I guess, how did that happen?
Yeah, I mean, we have with like the ownership of our company, which is just family owned, and our like executive team, we have meetings, kind of big picture meetings a couple times a year. And we do kind of talk about like worst case scenario, what would, because we want to plan for growth if we can, but what would happen if there's a downturn in the economy or a recession and we've got to pull back on some events. But no one could have predicted this, I don't think, where literally our entire industry would be shut down overnight, where we would lose literally all of our event revenue. I mean, you guys are feeling it with Tiger Claw having a cancellation. I think I myself, I've been caught off guard here. I did not have a backup plan in place for a complete shutdown. And even like I've collected a lot of revenue for events that have not yet taken place. And like to be realistic and to be totally transparent and honest, I don't know when those events will take place at this point.
Right.
I'm looking at a worst case scenario, like it might be the fall, or maybe it's even further until we can actually do this again. So that's a scary thing to think about. I've definitely spent some of that money on overhead already and trying to figure out, like, I basically had to make a mental shift. Like, I can't live on that money anymore because like I got to have some in reserve in case, maybe I do have to refund some money or what, God knows what. So for us, when we had the order in Arizona that you had to have no mass participation events bigger than 50, we knew, okay, we've got to cancel our next 8 weeks of events.
Right. So
that was the pivotal moment for us. The like, oh crap moment of, okay, that's over. And then we had to kind of start, it took us a couple days to kind of start to think about the ramifications of that and how to kind of at least pivot and postpone some of our events. And then it was just more and more apparent that we had to come up with something else to tide us over. And so, yeah, it was pretty immediate that we're like, okay, we're going to go, what can we do? What do we know? Okay, we can go all in on video. We can go all in on some, sell some more shirts and things. I don't know. And just with every day that passes, we've kind of just built upon those bricks that we laid, and we try and build another layer, and we try and make something new and something interesting. And really, we're kind of taking it day by day. We do have some more long-term ideas, but we're really focusing on in the moment and what we can do. How much can we get done every day? And that's how we've been living for the last, I don't know, how long has it been? 3 weeks or so?
Yeah. Depending on the region, it's been a handful of weeks. It's been over a month here, pretty much.
Like 5 weeks. Yeah.
Laura in the chat room has a really good point, and just appreciating you talking so openly about this and sort of the behind the scenes type of thing, because a lot of people just aren't willing to talk a bit about the troubles that they're in and currently, and
especially when it comes to like having to cancel races and people wanting refunds. And we totally hear you. If you need that money, we totally understand. But there's also a lot of race directors and organizations like Jamil's and others that it's like, you're not just sitting around on mountains of cash, like ready to give it back. Like,
no, I think the misconception is that is how race direction companies work, and it's not. As we only put on one event, and that one event having to postpone it at this point is like, we don't know what we're going to do. And I can't imagine having a business that relies on the income of events that are a year out, right? Like you're opening registration a year in advance and you sort of rely on that for budgetary reasons and staffing stuff. So we know that what you are doing now is a part of that pivot. And I have to recognize the amount of flexibility that you have shown and amount of work that you and the team have put in just the last few weeks. Like the only way to get through something like this is to have a business like flex like what you're doing. Because I know, okay, here's the path. Here are the things that we can kind of rely on. And then you want to grow your business in other parts. And I know like when you created Artworks and all that stuff, you were thinking, oh, these are going to be new avenues of revenue flow while we still have the races as like that base. I totally see that, and from a business model standpoint, it makes perfect sense because we've thought about the same sort of things. And then to see that the race base has sort of been taken away, you immediately pivoted and are doing some really, really cool things that I do hope turn into really great revenue streams, or at least get you to a point where you're happy with what's going on. So I just want to recognize the amount of work that you're putting into what you're doing right now, which is a lot. As someone who creates content regularly, we are stretched thin. And so I know you putting in the extra hours and doing all this content, I bow down, I clap, I applaud, and I cheer because you're certainly doing a lot.
I couldn't do it without our team. And that's the thing for me. If it was just me and my brother putting on races, I think it would be different. We would approach things differently. And it's tough because Aravaipa, we do have an infrastructure and a large team. So we support around 12 people full time. So like that's their main income. So we can't, if we were to just lay everyone off and hunker down for a while and wait for this to pass, we would be putting a lot of people in a tough spot. And so I'm just fighting as hard as I can to keep my team together because, this cloud will lift at some point and I want them to be around when that does. And we've all had to take, tighten the belts a little bit, but we're trying to work together to make it happen and, just get through this together as a team. And I couldn't be doing all that I'm doing without the team. There's people here that are working incredibly hard, harder than we've ever worked before to make things happen. And I know you were talking about Artworks earlier. And it is interesting because we realized that we were vulnerable because our entire client base was all other race directors who also had canceled races. So literally we were a couple weeks ago, we literally were talking about shutting it down because it was like, well, we have no events. No one has any events. So like, we can't just continue to keep the lights on, so to speak. But between our pivot with creating, our own virtual race and people really supporting it, we've been able to keep our people working. So it's been good.
That's awesome news. I want to talk to some more of the specifics as to what you've been up to in the last few weeks, because it has been a lot. And some of these things are pretty fucking epic, to be totally honest. So we'll get into that in just a second. But Kim has a number of questions from the chat room. If you have questions, drop in there, ask away. Kim will pull them aside. What do we got?
Yeah, a question from A2B2 in the chat room. A2B2 says, Jamil, depending on the length of the pandemic and the return to in-person racing, do you plan to cut back on the number of races Aravaipa puts on while you ramp back up? Or would you just try to return back to regular schedule?
That's, a great question. And I think we'll have to see, how long this lasts and when it comes back online. We've already pivoted quite a few of our spring races and doubled up in the fall. But, right now we're not taking any money right now from any of our events in 2020. We've gone completely to wait list. So we've basically paused registrations for everything. So we're not accepting any money from customers right now, from runners. So when we know we can put them on, we're going to open those up, but we might consolidate our schedule a bit because I know it's not just our races that are being rescheduled. So we might skip some of our smaller events in the fall and just focus on our bigger ones.
Sweet. Let's get to One more
One
live
more?
question. Yeah.
Question from Laura. Laura says she's interested to hear how you're balancing being a parent on top of all the work you're putting in right now.
That's tough. And that's a tough thing for me normally because I like to work a lot and I'm trying to do better and be more present. So it is kind of nice because we're kind of forced to just hang out at home. So when I'm at home, I try and put the phone away, put the computer away, and just focus on hanging out with Taggart. And we've been working on our garden. First time I planted a garden in 10 years, I think. So we planted it, I think, a week and a half ago, and we've already got rows of sprouts growing up. And it's a really good feeling to just have that again and focus more on that. It's important right now to do that.
Awesome. I want to start talking about these really cool projects that you've been up to. So at the time of the pivot, at the time that you realized that things needed to sort of shift, and you already have this video side, and you've been cranking up the video end of things a lot more in the last few months and half a year almost. What sort of ideas came to mind first that you knew you had to execute or wanted to execute, and sort of what has been the trend for you and what you wanted to create?
Yeah, so I think the beginning of this year, I've just been so inconsistent the last couple of years. I wanted to return to consistency. I think that's obviously, as you know, important on these platforms and for people that like to tune in. So we wanted to put out a video every week. So we started that, I think, in January, and we were doing at least a video a week, sometimes more, just because we got rolling again and the ideas started flowing. But yeah, it's been in my mind for a while to try and do just some more entertaining or thought out content that was more specific, not just a vlog style. It had more meaning and purpose to it. So yeah, sometimes a gear video or like the Helipad marathon, the 40% treadmill 1 mile challenge, like there's kind of these off the wall things that is just purely entertainment or a fun challenge to do. I'd love to do challenges more with people, but that's not going to happen right now. So
Right.
I'd love to, I don't know, maybe race someone on a 40% treadmill or my backyard loop, do a mile and race people on it or something. Could be fun. I have tons of other ideas, but just wanted to do something different, mix it up.
It's been cool to sort of see like the training for Barkley videos, those were great. That sort of like first person perspective vlog style, but done with good quality footage and a really good look behind the scenes of what that, I mean, you're not really seeing the course, you're seeing trails of the park, but you get a really good behind the scenes look at what it takes to get through those miles and stuff. All just fantastic content that was just super entertaining and provided us with tons of good minutes of entertainment and stuff. And then we start seeing the stuff like the Helipad marathon, which, let's be honest, was that fun? Because it didn't look remotely fun.
I mean, it's always fun looking back on it, right? I don't know. I've wanted to do a short track long run or ultra for a really long time.
Right.
And as soon as I saw that our new office had that on the roof, it was a no-brainer that it was going to happen at some point. I just kept dragging my feet because it doesn't sound like a lot of fun. But I don't know. Once you get going up there, it was just kind of hanging out outside all day.
Sure.
And it was actually really fun because I was in the chat room a lot on YouTube. So I really need to work on my setup because I was like staring at my phone for half the dang thing, and it probably just made me more dizzy. But I think I would get like a screen to look at, like a big TV screen. But yeah, it was fun interacting with people and just being up there. I don't know, maybe it'll build some character.
So with all of this happening and a lot of the, like Washington State's been pretty much on shelter in place for a number of weeks. And my first instinct, and I don't know if this was the same for you, but my first instinct was, how can I get creative with runs now? And how can I turn it into something really challenging? Because already being limited to like the few blocks around our homes and stuff, I wonder if I could run around our block, and I wonder if I could turn that into a marathon or a 50K or 100, the brain starts going into these weird places of what you're actually going to do. And so when I saw you do the Helipad marathon, I was like, oh my God, that's even running around the block in my mind is hard enough. Like we have a 0.2 mile block that has 35 feet of gain per loop.
Nice.
But a helipad, do you know how many feet around it was? I mean, you'd had to do the math, but how many,
Well,
like how much was
I
a
also
loop?
screwed up. The way I designed my course, I designed a square course, and we don't really run in squares. Typically, we run more circles. So I don't know. I was just in the rush of it all, but it was 27 meters that was kind of the outside of the square. And I ended up running a little bit of a larger loop, but I mean, it was guaranteed to be longer. So it wasn't a short course by any means, but yeah, it was 27 meters around. It took about, I think average lap time was 11 or 12 seconds.
Oh.
That's so crazy. I love it.
DM in the chat room says, I told you it should have been a circle.
Yeah, I'm sure there was a lot of people that are like, this guy is trying to put a square peg in a round hole.
Literally. When I saw it, I was like, oh, I wonder if there's a more efficient use of the space, because you would have to switch directions from time to time, right? Like if your hip starts wearing out. Yeah.
Yeah, my hips were just hurting. That was the worst part.
I think the one thing I noticed was the traffic. How close were you actually in proximity to the freeway? Because as a background, I just went, oh man, that's gotta, like, the noise, the smell, like, was that bothersome?
We're not far. I mean, we're the closest building to the freeway. It's probably, I don't know, 100 yards or something. And then we got the airport right beyond it. So it's kind of interesting. You feel like you're in the middle of a lot going on. But yeah, there was like way too many people driving around, I'm sure.
Yeah, it felt like the freeways were normal busy. I was like, wow, there's actually a lot of people still driving around Phoenix. Let alone the fact that you're on the roof and drivers are probably seeing you. So my big thing was, I bet this, yes, it's weird to run a marathon on a helipad, but is it, like for ultra runners, is it that weird? But for people driving on the freeway, you have to be wondering, like, what the fuck is going on? Super wild. Yeah. But you did it. And that's what's awesome. Yeah. Is there going to be another creative idea like that you have? A sequel? Like the bathroom marathon or something?
Yeah, I'm like, I mean, I could try for like a mile, like fastest mile on a helipad loop, possibly. Like that. Because like if you run really, really fast, I don't know. I was trying to do a couple faster laps, but I don't know, like how, that is interesting. Like how fast could I run a mile all out on that course?
Put a pole in the middle and like use that and run around it. Because I feel like if you run fast enough and your momentum is there, or like tie it to a rope and like run around
tie
the
it to
rope.
Your waist.
I mean, I'm definitely going to do some more challenges on my backyard loop. I'm probably going to do some more treadmill ones and also helipad ones. But I mean, after watching the quarantine backyard, I think the next step would be an indoor one. I've always been fascinated by that. So maybe it's like in my studio, I'm gonna do a course in here, and maybe it's even tighter than, it's like only 15 meters or something really dumb. And I put my couch in the middle, and it's like a couch, a couch 10K, couch to 10K.
We saw that during the backyard quarantine backyard.
So you're the living room guy.
Yeah.
And
living room guy, as everyone called him.
Yeah, the living room guy. There was like people like 100 years ago, they would do indoor races. So I think there's something to that kind of appeals to me for sure.
I want to talk a little bit about this quarantine backyard ultra. You have live questions, of course.
This leads into that and also ties into our conversation right now. So Kim McCoy in the chat room says, I ran 9 loops of the quarantine backyard ultra on the top deck of an old ferry inspired by Jamil's helipad.
Wow. That's cool.
Nice.
Top deck of an old ferry? That's rad. Does he live on an old ferry?
Kim says, it's owned by a friend who let me use it for the race.
That's really cool.
That's pretty cool.
That is really cool. I want to talk a bit about this quarantine backyard ultra. So with everything that's happened, was the event created before a lot of this happened and it was just going to be a virtual backyard ultra, or was it because of the shelter in place and the COVID stuff that Proctor and the whole team was like, let's do this because of this?
It was definitely in response to everything happening. Dave Proctor was going to go for the Trans Canada record. So he was training up for it. And I don't know when he was supposed to start, but I think somewhat soon. since it takes a couple months, I believe, to run all the way across there. So yeah, he wanted to do something in lieu of that since he couldn't go. So I think, yeah, he thought, why not do the popularity of the backyard type last person standing races is off the charts. So why not do something where I can get a bunch of my really good elite friends to show up. We'll live stream it and we'll invite anyone to partake. And I don't know, I saw it and I was like, I saw who was signed up on the elite field. I was like, I'll throw my name in the hat. Why not? I'll give it a shot. It sounds like fun, support something that's happening out there that's positive, and it was a good time.
It was really cool to watch because as someone who's a fan of technology and using it to bring people together, it was a really good use of technology by, you had various live streams of the elite field and the semi-elites, and people could vote on who would be nominated to the elite field. And it was really cool to follow. What was it like to run? Because I know you had a very unique experience starting 7 minutes before the start. What were those first few hours like for you? Give us the play-by-play.
I've just been working a lot. So I was working late at my office. I fell asleep literally on this couch right here behind me. And I don't think I had an alarm set, but I just like, all of a sudden I was like, oh, it's light out. Oh, crap. That race start. And I was trying to do the time change in my head. I was like, I forgot what time it started. It was like 5:50 a.m. when I woke up. I was like, I think it starts in 10 minutes. So I had to like check Twitter. And sure enough, it was like counting down. Had to go find some shoes, pull up on my computer the live stream, and just sprint out the door basically, just so I didn't DNF or DNS basically. And I ended up running 7 loops just around my office complex, which was actually really cool. I've never run around here. So I got to explore all these different little back streets and neighborhoods and get to kind of learn what's going on. And, there wasn't really many people out. There's like a couple guys doing landscaping. Other than that, I didn't really see anyone. So it was a pretty good spot to do it. And yeah, I ended up filming my outhouse news show in the midst of one of the laps. So it's like I was kind of running a lot harder than normal early.
Right.
And then I wanted to get home because I wanted to get on the treadmill. And so I had to drive home about 15 minutes in one of the hours and make it there before I had to start again. And so I think I made it with 3 minutes to spare, and I was able to hop on the treadmill and keep it going.
That sounds like a semi-nightmare because when I was watching live when you were talking about, hey, I'm running around these complexes and look how cool this is. I'm running near work. I barely woke up this morning. At some point, I need to get home. And so I started thinking of the logistics in my head of, oh shit, you have to run 4.167 miles and then grab all your stuff and get ready to get into your car and drive, get out and start your next 4.167 mile loop. How many hours did it take to plan step by step of that?
Yeah. Well, so I had to finish scripting my show. So that took it some time. Then I had to film the show, which takes about 15 minutes. Then I had to pack up all my stuff. So I think I did 7 hours at work at the office. And I was trying to run on like 33 to 35 minutes. So I had 15 to 20 minutes to work. And then I also had to take care of myself running a marathon, basically. So yeah, I think it's pretty typical for me to do something like that. Not recommended, but it's kind of how I do things.
It sounds like the most Jamil experience ever. Like so much to do, multitasking like crazy, but still managing to crush 100 kilometers of racing miles. And by the end of it, I mean, what was it that ultimately sort of took it out for you?
So yeah, I was once I got on my treadmill, and then I wanted to set up a green screen behind me so I could put funny backgrounds up on Zoom, just because why not? It makes it more interesting. And then I started commentating. So I pulled up the YouTube comments because it'd be pretty quiet. So I was like, you know what, I'll chat with people. And so I did, 6 hours of that, of just basically talk for 40 minutes straight while I'm running, and then eat some food. And I don't know, you little slight bounce on a treadmill, and I'm staring at a screen. I'm just reading and talking the whole time. probably not drinking enough, not eating enough. And then I did a lap outside right at dusk, and my brain was still doing that little like bounce on the treadmill bounce or something.
Oh.
I was expecting that little bit of give for every step. And all of a sudden I was on hard ground and it wasn't giving anymore, but my brain was still thinking about it. And so I got this weird vertigo effect. I felt like the world was spinning basically. And so that finally kind of calmed down after a half hour of running outside. But I was just kind of like, what am I doing to myself here? I was running super hard early in the day. It was a hot day. I'm wearing myself out. I don't need to do this. And really, I'm like, I want to start training for Hard Rock anyways. So I mean, I hate DNFing a race, especially when I still have more to give. I mean, my body could have, and my mind could have gone further, but why? Why right now with everything going on in the world, why do I need to do this? So I think I tried to make the smartest call I could and end it. So I don't regret it at all.
Speaking of ending it, there's word in the chat that Radic went done at lap 59, which right now the Quarantine Backyard Ultra is currently happening, but perhaps it is not. Perhaps this could be it. Maybe Mike Wardian.
What do you mean? They're saying he's done with the loop.
Oh, done with the loop?
That's what I'm guessing.
Or I thought done.
Done with lap 59.
I took that as maybe done at lap 59.
And then she says Wardian in too.
Okay, so
that makes
ignore what I just said.
I'm reading it as they're both in.
I'm going to rely on Kim's knowledge of interpretation from the chat room, but
I've been wrong before.
I just can't have the Quarantine Backyard going simultaneously because I would. But yeah, okay, apparently it's still going.
There was a question from Mark in the chat room asking, how long do you think you could have gone? Like, did you have a number in mind of what you wanted to hit potentially?
Yeah, I think going into it, and probably if I had, gotten a little more rest and started at home and was able to do my original plan, which would be treadmill and then doing some laps around my neighborhood and kind of starting out at a more casual pace from the get-go. I was hoping to do anywhere from 24 to 30 hours. That's about as much time as I had before, dad duties took over. Yeah, that would have been fun to do, but 100K and in the same week that I did that marathon on the roof, I'll take that. That was solid. And that's more treadmill, concrete, street miles than I have done in a long time. So I'm ready for some trails.
Yeah. And 62 miles is no slouch, right? Like 100, we have to recognize that these are incredible times right now. And so to be able to do 62 miles in the fashion that you did, and multitasking and splitting your brain between commenting and running, it is a lot. When you're running 100 miles or beyond, I imagine there's a certain level of that you have to focus on just being kind of lost in the moment, right? You don't want to expend too much energy doing so many other things. So the fact you were doing so many other things, that was probably much more like 130, 150 mile run, just based off the amount you were actually doing outside of the running. You mentioned training for Hard Rock, and that's something you've been talking a bit on social. Did you get a new training plan from, oh my God.
Ian Torrance.
Ian Torrance. I almost said Ian
like,
Sharman. But Ian Torrance, did he give you a new training plan for Hard Rock this year? Do you have faith that Hard Rock is going to happen? Like, how is this going to play out for you?
Yeah, a lot to unpack here. So, yeah, a few weeks ago, I think right when Barkley was canceled, I was like, man, I was also not happy with my training leading up to Barkley. I just haven't been prioritizing it. And I really haven't been prioritizing it for the last 5-6 years. Just haven't been putting in a good amount of work to truly showcase the athlete that I am. And I'm regretting that right now. And I don't want to regret it in another 2, 3, 4, 5 years when I'm past my prime. I feel like I'm still in my prime for ultra running. So I'm kind of putting my foot down right now. And regardless if Hard Rock is going to happen, and I'll just take a pause right now and say, I think it's doubtful that it will. I think it will probably be canceled for the second year in a row, which is incredibly heartbreaking. Mostly because, man, I want something to look forward to. I think we all do right now.
Yeah.
Yep.
For my 2 goal races of the year, I know I'm just one person and many of us are facing this. to potentially have my year canceled, that's a tough pill to swallow just as a human, and I know that there's a lot worse stuff going on in the world right now, but it's still a tough thing where it's like, man, that's a bummer. So regardless of that, I'm going to train and I'm going to do this training buildup, even if it's canceled. It'll be way more motivation if it's not, obviously. But just as we started the show, I saw an email pop up from Ian, and it sounds like he did update my plan. So I'm excited to dive into that and see what he has going for me. And I just figure it might be a cool thing to maybe do a video each week and say, okay, this is what I did. And maybe here's some clips from this hard workout and what's on tap for next week. What are you guys training for as well? And just kind of maybe a rolling diary of a little series we can do.
I love it because as someone who's also at this point, like just trying to figure out a new training routine and a new schedule and
something to look forward
to, because that totally agree. We've been talking about this on the Daily Brew and just trying to figure out what is it that we're able to look forward to right now. We've been just calling it that light at the end of the tunnel. It can be a race, it can be a self-inflicted race, or something you design yourself, or a big challenge. But it is so helpful to have something like that to give you some purpose. And I'm with you. I realize that there's so much else that is more important going on in the world. But for each individual's sanity and ability to just sort of function daily, having that personal goal is so helpful.
And it's okay to feel sad about something, even though there's all these other things going on. Like it's okay to feel sad about a canceled race or a canceled year, you know.
I want to talk a little bit about Aravaipa Strong virtual race too, because in response to all this, you did the exact right thing and created something that is super unique and fun, and will get the entire world together in supporting Aravaipa and small business and stuff like that. Can you just tell us a little bit about where it came from, what it's about, how people can sign up and participate too?
Yeah, sure. I mean, the number one goal was to try and have something for people to look forward to, us as well. It was to create something new and not just, hey, this is our race that got canceled, run this. Because for us, like, I really want people to run those courses if they can. And it's hard to just transfer it. We're doing some of that too. But yeah, Aravaipa Strong, it's all about coming together, being strong together, showcasing how we can all band together. And, there is a charity component to it, but it is to keep our team employed and to keep some of that work flowing to Aravaipa. And yeah, we've been blown away by the response. It's been awesome. A lot of people are saying they're going to do their first ultra. People are saying, hey, cool, I finally get to run an Aravaipa event, which is awesome. People from different parts of the country, different parts of the world that haven't been able to travel here. So it's kind of eye-opening for me. It's like, oh yeah, we do have kind of a global audience, and it's fun to do something with everyone involved and not just, who has the ability to travel to Arizona, let's say.
Right.
So it's been cool. And yeah, I'm excited. Our whole team has been involved on the creative aspect of bringing together I just love the logo and everything we've been able to make through it. It's really cool to see what we're capable of when we can focus all of our resources on it.
It's super cool and unique, and there's multiple distances, so people can run anywhere from 5K to 100 miles, right?
Yeah, and we only went up to 50K when we launched it. We're like, yeah, we don't really want to do longer than that. But people demanded it, really. They're like, and it is kind of interesting because we're giving people 10 days to do it. So you can choose any of those days to participate. And if you want to take all 10 days for your 100 miles, feel free. And we actually think it's better right now. You're not forced to overextend yourself on any one given day. I think that's
exactly.
We also wanted people to have time to spread out their efforts. So we're not pushing people to go, okay, it's this one Saturday, go flock to the trails or this certain area. We're trying to respect everything that's going on and give people the most flexibility in this.
I love the idea that it is you're able to sort of extend the effort out over a long period of time, because that was one of the conversations that came up with the Quarantine Backyard Ultra is during this time, why would you put your body through so much stress when the last thing you want to do is, put your immune system at risk and that sort of thing? But being able to sort of spread these efforts out over a long periods of time is awesome. And I think it's such a great way to make this accessible to so many and to challenge people in new ways too.
Yeah. And also like there's a lot of people that can't go to trail. Like Washington State, we can't go to trails. So we're all like, we are locked down. We can't drive to trails. All the trails are closed. So having the option to spread it out over a number of days makes it more digestible, I guess.
Yeah,
because
running 100 miles around our block is like
we're
okay.
really locked into a very small neighborhood, and that's it. And I know a lot of other people.
Are you guys allowed to like just a certain radius around your homes, or how does it work?
We can run as far as we want from our homes,
Yeah.
but they're trying to encourage people to stay in your neighborhood.
What we're seeing is local parks they're crazy. Like
state parks are all closed. DNR land is all closed. Like where the mountain we hold our race, everything is closed. So
city parks are they're overloaded. If you go to any of the city parks where you would normally run and it's pretty quiet and empty, it's just everyone is there. The weather here is gorgeous right now and people are wanting to get outside and just get out of their homes. So we understand that a lot of people are congregating at these city parks, which is frowned upon. And of course, the last thing you want to do is just go around hordes of people.
Right.
So yeah, running, we have friends that are just running around city streets that are parts of the city that they wouldn't normally go run through and are safe and not crowded at all. And they're having a great time sort of exploring the city in new ways. So that is open to us, but we just can't go to trails, which sucks. Because we're like you, we're like, just give me some soft ground.
Yeah.
I did run a loop in my yard because you have a great yard and you have this really cool loop around it. Mine is much smaller, and it took me 11 seconds. I think it was just around 11 seconds.
It was
to
like
get around
0.02 miles.
Yeah, that's pretty much the helipad loop right there.
Yeah, it was a helipad loop.
Zero,
If that puts the perspective of how big our yard is, but it has some gain, it has some stairs,
a little trail,
a little technical
road
section.
Yeah,
like three steps of technical, a downhill.
The most diverse backyard loop on the planet.
There was rain in one part of it. It was a sprinkler, but
Is registration still open? If it is, where can people go to find all the information?
Yeah, we had kind of pre-registration open till last night, and that was to guarantee you would get all of your goodies, at least domestically in the US, before we start the race. But we're going to keep registration open all the way to the end. You just might get all your goodies either at some point during the race or right after the race. We're going to work as hard as I can to get it out there. But you can go to aravaiparunning.com, search for Aravaipa Strong. It should be right at the top of our webpage. And would love for people to check it out. Join if you can. If this one doesn't speak to you, we've got some other fun ideas in the works. We will be launching our next virtual race later this week. We'll be announcing it. So it's going to be a vertical challenge.
Sweet. We had talked about doing a vertical integration into GRGR this year that was a bit different because we do vertical game, but we had sort of talked about like weird, cool new ways to get it. But I can't wait for that one because I know people are just like dying to get some vert in, even if it's just doing stairs or something in their backyard, measuring it out and calculating it out.
It's going to see the creativity that people have. I mean, with the constraints we have, it's like everyone's so adaptable. It's kind of amazing to see what people are working with, like the living room guy at quarantine, or Matt Shepard was in a cafe or a coffee shop.
Yeah, I saw that.
Ran like 100 and something miles. And I think the last 16 hours, he was just in his socks. I can't even imagine.
Part was like, wait, is that an advantage? Can he slide?
Yeah.
Like is sliding now part of it? Another little bit of an announcement is our good supporter, Brian Sands, who's been a longtime supporter of us here at the show. He's going to be giving away 2 Aravaipa Strong entries tomorrow during Daily Brew. So if you would like your chance to win one of those 2 entries, just join us at patreon.com/thegingerrunner for $3 or more. You get to join our daily live streams. And Brian, he is donating 2 entries into the Aravaipa Strong virtual race, and we'll be giving those away tomorrow to 2 GR crew members, which is fantastic. And Jamil, we thank you so much for being on the show and for all that you're doing right now, because you are providing great sources of entertainment, great sources of inspiration. in these crazy times where people around the world are just looking for some semblance of normalcy, you're providing that. So we thank you as much as I know our audience does too, my friend.
Yeah, you're welcome, and thanks for saying that. Appreciate it.
Where can people find you on social media, follow up, and watch all these cool videos that you have brewing?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to reach out to me personally, at Jamil Coury on Instagram. If you want to check out our YouTube channels, we are Run Steep, Get High, Mountain Outpost, and Aravaipa Running. Check it out. And yeah, give the Aravaipa Strong virtual race a check. It's coming up April 17th through the 26th.
Fantastic. You heard it here. Go show Jamil some love. Thank him for being on the show tonight. And thank you all for watching Ginger Runner Live episode 302. We appreciate you. And again, we're doing live streams every day. They're really fun. We get to brew some coffee. We're doing mugs right now, which I'm excited about. We got Johnny Bertram working on a fun logo, which I'll be seeing tonight. He's going to send us some of that stuff tonight, but those mugs will be available tomorrow too. But we always like to end our shows with a new segment where we get to recognize members of the community in a little segment we like to call our GR Crew Member of the Week, where someone goes above and beyond and does something awesome for themselves or for other members of the community. Kim, who is this week's member, the GR Crew Member of the Week?
So I just wanted to recognize another healthcare worker in the GR Crew. This week's GR Crew Member of the Week is Justin Newman. And Justin says, I got to see my wife and kids for the first time in a few weeks. I'm in health and safety at a university with a hospital and have been working to get everyone in N95s or other respirators. My wife and kids, who are 5 and 1.5, have been staying with her parents to keep them safe. I dropped off Easter supplies today, sat in the yard while they stayed on the deck and got to talk for a bit. Also got in a 10K run for a local race that was canceled. Thank
you, Justin, for what you're doing. I can only imagine the sacrifice of not being able to see your family. We are happy that you got to see them, even if from a little bit of a distance. But thank you for the hard work that you're putting in, saving lives and putting yours at risk. We appreciate everything that you're doing at the front lines there. We are going to move into our after show, which is a really cool thing for all of our Patreon crew as well. So immediately after we end this live stream, we're going to jump back in with Jamil and ask him any of the residual questions from the show. I'm going to ask him a little bit more about YouTube stuff because I'm excited to see what he's got brewing and some technical stuff. But we'll see you over there for the after show. Otherwise, we'll see you next week. Episode 303 of Ginger Runner Live will be next week. Anything else? Am I forgetting?
I think that's it.
Get out there and
stay in there.
Train hard but safely. Race harder virtually and party the hardest. In
your home.
Yeah, party. Just party. Party hard. We'll see you guys next week. Bye.
Ginger